Welcome back to Guff Stuff Weekly. I'm Guff.
I'm Jaden.
And this week, I think we're gonna change it up a little bit. We're not gonna have one subject we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about many little things. I think we're gonna talk about some of our favorite things.
Again, another my favorite
I
things
like I
episode.
like my favorite
My
things
favorite
episodes.
things, part two. Let's
I
go.
think what we should stick to though is indie games.
Favorite indie games?
Yeah, and the one that pops into my head while I was sitting here thinking about it is there's a lot of games out there that come across that you probably wouldn't normally play just because they're like I mean, it just doesn't look like. Okay, I'll use this one for example. The heck? Oh no. Stardew Valley
Okay.
comes across. It's an indie game,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like you look at it and you're like, why would I ever play that?
It's a farming
It's a
life
farming
simulator.
life simulator,
Yeah.
but it is such a peaceful, relaxing, just real casual game that
Okay.
you can have a lot of fun with. There's a lot to it, actually. There's a lot of depth to it. And I know we've talked about indie games and having how they go more into the mechanics. They go deeper, way deeper than Star. I mean, I play Starfield, I've played, Skyrim and all them, and them are big, burgeoning, games full of life, right?
Yeah.
But there's something about the indie game that gives that little extra touch that you just don't get. And that's I just want to talk about our little hidden gems.
Oh.
Games that
Okay.
games that have little things in there that you maybe didn't think of playing, but then like, wow, that was actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't put 300-400 hours into it, but I mean, put 40 hours into a $10 game. Like, why not? That's worth its weight in gold in my mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, Stardew Valley is the one I initially was thinking of. But I mean, I have others for sure.
I gotta pull up my Steam library for this one.
Oh yeah,
I got quite a few little gems that I played that I really like.
yeah. That maybe even other people haven't even really thought about. I mean, Stardew Valley is becoming a fairly popular game now.
Oh yeah, it's extraordinarily
When I
popular.
first started playing it, it was a total like under the radar. Someone's like, "Hey, have you ever heard of this game?" I'm like, "Why would I play a farming simulator
Yeah.
game? I could go to Facebook and do that."
Yeah.
When Facebook had the apps, which I'm sure they still do, or Meta,
I,
whatever.
I should add something to the Stardew Valley
Yeah,
thing, and that it didn't do anything groundbreaking that hadn't been done before,
right.
because the farming simulator was kind of
Yeah,
Harvest Moon had done that,
yep, yep. Yeah, comparable to
which were
Harvest Moon.
niche
Yep,
games in
right.
and of themselves, but just the whole package that was delivered was just so elegant and
Yeah,
perfect
it's
that
just
yeah, it's
I
definitely.
haven't really found anybody that did not like it.
Hmm.
And I'm talking everybody from the hardcore first person shooter guy
Yeah.
to the casual. I like to consider myself a casual player because I don't have a genre specific that I play,
Yeah.
and I haven't found anybody that doesn't like it.
Well, I mean, let's look at some of the facets of it. Like, it has combat,
Yep,
a fairly simple
yep, yep,
but robust, we'll say, combat system.
yep.
It has dating simulation in it.
Yeah, that it does.
It has a lot of social
Yep,
um, simulation. So if you like games like The Sims or something like that, there's that for you.
yep.
It has the harvesting and
Farming and just
farming, which for
resource
someone who
gathering.
uh like survival crafting, or
Right.
even automation to certain extents, like sometimes it's kind of puzzling sometimes to put your farm together
Yeah.
and do stuff like
Just to
that.
make it maximum yield, maximum use
Yeah.
of your property.
Has a really fun fishing mini game that I've basically spent all my hours playing
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
game.
No,
That's all I do is fish.
it is a pretty fun fishing game.
And the
Basically,
multiplayer
yeah.
is quite fun, and it's a charming game. It's just wrapped in a very simple package. It's very easy on the computer.
Yep.
You can run it on phones, I think, even.
Yeah, it's cross-platform pretty much now. I've played it on Switch. I've played it on pretty much everything. I think some extent or another.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those little. It was a hidden gem for a long time, and now it's fairly mainstream. But
Yeah.
it's one of those games that you just come across that are like, wow, everybody should try this one.
Yeah. No, it's an absolutely great game.
How about
Um,
you? Found any little hidden gems that everybody should try to give out?
Not that I can recommend to everybody, but I do have some hidden gems. Um, One of the ones that kind of really surprised me. I never thought I'd like the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Um, It's gonna sound crazy, but Brotato.
There you go. Yep.
Brotato is I think it's kind of like a bullet hell
Yep.
slash survivor game where you play as a potato and you fight waves of enemies and you level up your character as you go, and then after wave 20, the game you win the run. It's kind of a roguelike in a
Right.
way. Um, and it's a really simple game. You can play it with one hand. It's just WASD keys,
Right.
and then you can click and do it. It's on I think it's on mobile and all sorts of other things, and it's a very simple game to run. Uh, Very rewarding gameplay loop. And it's just some of the stuff you can do is just wacky, and like it's a game about just one upping yourself every time you play
Right.
it. And I really liked Brotato. Everybody I've recommended it to, which some people aren't into action games at all,
Right.
and every single person I've recommended it to has played like 10, 20 hours of it. Like they
Yeah,
just they
I
just
think
really
once
like it.
once I get it, I'll play with it and I'll be happy with it. I'm
It's
sure.
just a fun time sink,
Right.
or it's not even a time sink because it's just the runs only take 60 seconds per wave, and there's
But it
four
might be
waves,
it
so it's
might
like
be
20
one of those
minutes.
games where you have 15, 20 minutes to play that might
Yeah,
be fun to sit down and just play for 15, 20 minutes.
absolutely. And that's the joy of it. I really liked Brotato. It's dirt cheap. You can pick it up for like less than $5
Right.
US dollars, and it's a great game. 100% recommended to anybody.
I'll have to
Um,
check that. I mean, I do have every intent on checking that out at some point.
yeah.
I haven't played it yet, but
I guess I'll hit the ball back to your court then.
um, I guess another game that I played that it's not really a game that I think everybody will play, but if you're into the whole like Terraria, Minecraft,
The survival crafting is not
survival crafting type game, there's this game called Realms of Magic
Realms of Magic.
that I
Okay.
bought. I think I might have got it on a sale. I just bought it on a sale just on a whim.
Okay.
And I'm not I like I've played Terraria and it's okay. Like it's not something I would go back to all the time.
Hmm.
I do like the randomness of it. But Realms of Magic makes it simpler,
Okay.
if that makes any sense. Like you have a map, you have every little square is individual. It's kind of a randomly generated map. And you just go through and do stuff and there's random loot drops and but again, I don't know what the devs did, the developers of the game, but they just made it charming.
Okay.
Like it for whatever reason, it just was charming and fun and the little people you talk to are quirky and fun.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. It's just something out of the normal realm of again the big AAA titles, which I love. Don't get me wrong, I played plenty of AAA titles.
Yeah.
But it's something to be said about the guys who just sit around, the two or three devs that are trying to make a game that they just add their own flair, and
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
It's kind of a passion project
Yeah,
for people.
and
Yeah.
I like Realms of Magic. There's a lot of options and functions and the randomness of some of the stuff, and and the mystery. There's plenty of little problems to solve in the game and
Okay.
stuff. And of course, you can build your own buildings and your own crafting stations and stuff like that. But it's all in the one-dimensional, well, two-dimensional, I suppose, up and down, left, right.
Yeah.
But it's not a three-dimensional game. It's not a. It's more based on
Kind of a side scroller.
yeah, side scroller style.
Okay.
So yeah, that I guess I don't have tons more information. I haven't played it in a while, so I don't want to. And I know there's been a lot of updates, so I don't want to like say this is how it used to be.
Yeah.
And I know they've updated some things,
Okay.
but it's still a fun game. I know I've dabbled in it a little bit here and there when I get some free time. But Realms of Magic, it was a dirt cheap game at the time, and I imagine it's still dirt cheap. And it's just fun. It's just a time sink, and it's one of those games where I can log in, go to a click on a section of map because you have an overview map, and each tile is unique, kind of like Caves of Cud.
Yeah.
And you could just go there and just do your exploration for the day, and 15 minutes later you're done with the map,
Okay.
and you can just move on, and it's literally that easy to play.
I guess we'll toss him back to me now.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna put a pin in that Caves of Cud for a second. And I just wanna
Well, I don't want to say Caves of Cud is for anybody that loves themselves.
I really wanna dedicate an entire episode to that game because I think it's worthy of it.
Probably needs it.
So, but I guess the next game I want to talk about And this one's very well received.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's like just extremely positive reviews on Steam. It's not for everybody because it's got kind of survival crafting with slight horror elements,
Oh, great.
but it's not like creepy monster horror.
Okay.
Um, but the game can be spooky at sometimes and stressful, so it's not for everybody. But The Long Dark,
Oh, I like that game.
yeah, and that's a game where you are in essentially like they don't say it's Alaska, but it feels like
It
Alaska.
sure does. Yeah.
You're in basically the Canadian or Alaskan wilderness,
Yep.
and there's a story mode that's really good. That's most of my experience. The story's very well written, and long story short, there's been some sort of cataclysmic climate event that's happened, knocked out all the power grids and
Right.
everything, and your whole goal in the game is to just survive.
Right. Yep.
And you're stuck in a frozen wilderness with very minimal resources. You're injured when you first start, all these different things, and you have to go through these abandoned towns
And the
and
random humans you do meet
and
are
are strange.
strange and interesting. Yep.
You have to go through these random towns and cabins and like lakeside resorts and ice fishing resorts and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it's basically like it's a Minnesota simulator for the most
Yeah.
part.
Right. Minnesota in
So
February.
it hits kind of close to home.
Yep.
But yeah, the Long Dark's great. It has it's very um customizable, so you can change the difficulties and stuff like that, make it simpler to play and not as stressful. But the story modes are absolutely awesome. I highly recommend playing them.
It is. It is a.
Last time I played, they hadn't come up with Chapter 3 yet,
Okay.
but I think everything is out for it now.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
I think the
I haven't
story's
played
done.
it since. I don't think I've played it since. I don't even know if I ever got to chapter 2, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Just because it's kind of one of those things where I didn't want to play the game until it was done
Yeah.
because I didn't want to play the first like 4 hours of the game 40
Over and over,
times.
yeah. It is a very brutal game.
It is not
Um,
very forgiving.
It is not forgiving at all. Like you have to, in making fires has like a percentage chance depending upon your materials, and you could like you may find a hunting rifle. Spoilers. You might find a hunting rifle at some point, but you might find that you can't carry it because you have your firewood for the night,
Right.
and that's too heavy for you to carry alongside the rifle. And so you got to really be careful and picky and choosy about what weapons and stuff you take.
Right.
That is not a game where you can just go out, harvest all the resources, carry them around, and be good.
Yeah.
You have to basically harvest your meals each night. You have to build a shelter every night, and you have to. They did a very good job of making survival difficult and making thriving within the survival environment nigh impossible.
Right. And also, you need to pay attention to just the noise.
Yes.
I know there's wild animals in the game.
Yep.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay attention to some of those wild animals, they will eat you.
Yep.
If you're not paying attention to you hear the bear or hear the wolves.
The bear is so scary.
And if you're not paying attention to that and you decide you're just gonna do what you're gonna do, it's like real life. It's not gonna be forgiving very well.
And then there's also I don't want to get too in depth in it, but
Yeah.
I just want to talk a little bit about it. There's also certain points in time in the game where the animals get a little bit more let's call it hostile.
Yeah.
There's an event that happens periodically
Yeah.
that causes the animals to go absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself hiding in a car, freezing to death,
Trying to stay warm.
trying to stay warm, but also there's freaking wild animals outside of your car that are trying to get in. And it's
That's where the horror genre comes into.
Yep.
It does give you a little startle. For sure.
Yeah.
It is a good game though. And that's another one of those games that just kind of floated under the radar. I think anybody who's ever played it loves it.
Yep. I would agree. I think
Well,
a lot of people
I
like
think
it.
a lot of people just probably just skip by it initially, the Long Dark, and they're like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad we got it years ago when it first came out. I enjoy games like that a lot.
I don't know if there's multiplayer for it, but that would be a really interesting challenge because of how resources work.
Right. Oh yeah, that would be definitely.
Maybe that's something they're road mapping. I don't actually know.
No, I don't know either.
All right, I'm gonna hit the ball back to your court.
All right. So, okay. So we're going to completely switch This is something completely outside the norm. This is the very cat. It's a game called Hidden Folks. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Hidden Folks.
Hidden Folks. It
Okay.
is a basically Where's Waldo,
Okay. So
but it's all pencil drawing style art, right?
okay.
And they give you little hints of they draw. Some guy drew a. It's some guy who loves drawing with pencils and pens. I mean,
Oh my goodness, the
yeah,
art
no,
style is just awesome.
it is unbelievable. Everything is interactable on these little pictures,
Okay.
and they'll have a list of say 10 or 15 little people you're supposed to find on this big picture, the hand drawn picture.
Yeah.
And every little dude you click on will do something different.
Okay.
And sometimes you click on the truck and it honks at you. You click on a stoplight, the stoplight changes. You click on a window, the shades will open. You click on a door, the door opens.
Okay.
It's just all the details. It's a very mindless. I, I can't.
What's it's a hidden object
It's a
game for
hidden
one,
object
and a
game.
point and click at the same
Yeah,
time.
and I'm trying to think of the game, the books back in the day. Everybody used to have them. They're in hospitals, and there's always the little pictures in the back where you circle the little hidden find.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. But it is so much more than that. There's little noises, little stories that go along with
It's
some
brought
of
to
this stuff.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a stupid game. It's stupid. I thought I seen it one day and I thought, oh, that looks like a nice little time sink. I think we were actually sitting in the VA hospital at one point, and I just downloaded it on my phone just
Yeah.
for something to do. And I'm just like, I just love this
And all of a sudden
game.
you're
I
engrossed in
still
it.
play it
Yeah.
all the time.
Okay. What's the name of it again?
It's called Hidden Folks.
Okay.
Yeah, Hidden Folks. It's a I only have 4 or 5 hours on the PC, but I have it on my phone, and
Okay.
that's where I play it primarily. Although on the PC, I do know it's better because the bigger monitor, you get more of the map,
Yeah. So
and you don't have to.
you don't have to scroll your way
But
through.
it is tricksy. It is tricksy. It is there is some of it can be very difficult because you'll have 300, 400 little people drawn on a map on a beach. You're supposed to find the one that has a pair of striped shorts. You know, it's an interesting game. Everything's kind of interactive and fun, and it's just it's one of those little gems that I'm sure it's cheap as heck. I have no idea, but I know that the noises are all made by somebody's basically mouth. They're making noises with their mouth.
Okay.
The clunk, click, bang, crunch. It's just that. It's just I don't know. It's kind of a fun indie game. Pretty genius, and it requires nothing. Like it literally requires nothing. You like we're talking about potatoes. You could literally put an LCD screen on a potato, download this game.
Running out of Texas Instruments.
Yeah, you
keyboard.
probably could. It's just a fun game. Yeah, and I recommend that someone needs a time sink game, and it's good for anybody. I've
Okay.
got my wife to play it. I've had my daughter play it. I've had, my grandson give it a whirl,
Yeah.
and none of them seem to shy away from it because there's just so much to do on these silly little games. But yeah, it's called Hidden Folks. Give it a whirl. And they do. I don't think they have updated some of the maps or added to it. I don't know. I haven't seen much. I haven't paid much attention to the content because I don't think I've ever finished the game itself.
Okay.
Every time I think I'd get to the end, there's a whole new area
Section.
with 20 new maps to go through. So
All right.
anyway, we'll go back to you now if you have anything else you want.
Oh yeah, I could go all day on these.
Let's do it.
The next one on my list is, honestly, probably one of my top 10 games of all time. Like just I love this game dearly. I had it on my old Steam account. And I had it on, yeah. And it's called FTL, Faster Than Light.
Oh yeah.
And it is a roguelike race game, more racing game, essentially, is what it is. Now, when I say racing game, it's not like Mario Kart or anything like that.
Right.
It's you are trying to get to the end of a galaxy by whatever means you can, by following a path, and you are in a spaceship with X number of crewmates, and it's just such a strange game. It's unlike anything I've ever played. They call it a spaceship simulation roguelike, You take your ship and crew on an adventure through a randomly generated galaxy filled with either glory or bitter defeat. And you're running away from the Empire, more or less.
Right.
And you're trying to work for the rebels and live, and you have to control your ship's shields, your sensors, your oxygen generators, your engines, your FTL capabilities. Everything can be targeted and destroyed. So, and then it's just there's so much to the game. Uh, it came out in 2012. It's definitely an older game.
Right.
It never had a sequel that I know of, but just the depth of the game and the spaceship designing and upgrading your spaceship and the weapons you can equip and
Right.
the resource management is there's just so many facets to this game. Uh, it's just an absolute gem. And rather than me explaining it in full detail, because I could go on and on about it,
Just go get the game.
I'm trying to
Right.
restrain myself a little bit
Right.
here. I would recommend looking it up on Steam, or if it's on the Switch store or whatever, look it up there. It's a $10 game.
Let's see here. Take a look and see.
And
FTL.
I guess I'll talk a little bit about it. It's in 9 different languages right now, and then every jump that you make, you have to make a decision. It'll be like, oh, there's a distress signal.
Yeah, it's only $10, so
Sometimes the distress signal will be a ship that you can help out, and they'll give you something.
right.
Sometimes it's an enemy ship, and you just don't know until you go and figure it out.
Until you go fight it, or
Until you go and check it out. And sometimes it's like, cost you resources to repair the oxygen array at a station,
right.
but then they'll give you like a really rare weapon because you did that. Sometimes they'll just say thank you. So you never know what you're going to get. And so you have to make these long chain of decisions that ultimately end in, I'm not going to spoil anything, but end in a big event that happens
Right.
that decides whether or not you win or lose the run. And it took me probably more tries than I'm willing to admit to beat it the first time. But every single run I played, I felt like I learned something, and I felt like I was progressing my knowledge of the game.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's called FTL, Faster Than Light.
That's cool.
Check it out.
I think you mentioned that one to me before.
I'm gonna hit it back to you. Now.
All right. Well, this will be my last one. Otherwise, we could spend all day doing this. And it's not really a smaller indie game. It started out as a small indie game because nobody had heard of it when I got it the first time when I got it. I'd asked anybody about it, and everybody's like, "No, I've never even heard of the game." It's called Astroneer.
Oh, yeah.
When I got the game, nobody had heard of it. I played it both on Xbox and I played it on not PlayStation, but it might be on Switch. I might have played it on Switch. And I know I played it on PC. But it's a survival craft style game. But it's not even really. I don't know how to explain it. There's a lot to it, but it's very casual, simple.
Yeah, I've played this one.
Yeah,
so I can add a little.
I can tell you that it's playing it by yourself is fun, but playing with other people is also adds a new element of fun.
Yeah, and just that little asterisk, that pin that we put on Caves of Cud, we will be doing an episode on Astroneer.
Yeah, this is I'm just doing a short.
But yeah, it's a survival crafting.
Right.
Fairly laid back.
Yeah.
And then you travel to different planets and you make spaceships and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's just a little bit of stuff in there for everybody, and like if you need a game where you don't need to have an audience, you don't need to have a lot of people, there's really no competition, and you just want to just explore and have fun. Super simple, super cool. Even the little noises the little guy makes. Ooh, ooh,
yeah.
Ooh. It's just super simple, and the game is visually okay.
Yeah, it's
like your
the art style's great. Yeah,
your machines you put down and all your stuff you do and your rovers and all that. The art is good.
Yep.
It's very pleasant to deal with. Obviously there's a few quirks in the games that I can go without, but for the most part, it's a very well polished game, and it has been since I ever started playing it. They've added a lot since I started playing, and it seems like they keep constantly adding more.
Hmm.
Like I think they have a roadmap that still goes out for a ways.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so anyway, yeah, I just wanted to mention that in passing that's it's a fun game. Some people may not think of it. It's got super positive reviews on Amazon. Wow,
Steam.
probably Amazon too, but on Steam it's a very positive, um, 92% positive. So that's pretty good. Overall, out of the 95,000 reviews, 92% positive. So
Okay. I want to talk about. I'm gonna rapid fire. Oh, sorry.
no, no, yeah, I'm
Okay.
done. I just wanted to throw that in there as like my if you have to buy a game that you want to spend more than $10 on, buy
Actually,
this one.
maybe we'll do another episode. I don't want to put too many
No, go
out
ahead.
there right now,
That's fine.
but I definitely have at least two more I want to talk
Yep. Go ahead.
about. First one is a game called Duskers.
Duskers, okay.
Duskers, as in dusk and dawn,
Yep.
but Duskers. And it is a roguelike. So, actually, is it a roguelike?
I don't know.
I'm not going to call it a roguelike. It's a game where you start a run, you go, but there's no like meta progression that I'm aware of. So, Duskers is a game where you are in a galaxy. It's a sci-fi game, so it's space themed. You're in a galaxy that has been basically wiped out of all humanity,
Oh,
and
okay.
you're one of the last humans left.
Right.
And there's derelict spaceships all over the place, space stations all over the place, and you start the game with very little fuel on your spaceship, and you start with three drones. And the objective of the game is that you go from point A to point B, keep going point A to point B, and you keep progressing down a chain of planets and space stations and derelict spaceships.
Right.
And you gather enough fuel and or resources at each one of these to make it to the next one. It's a game of scraping by.
Right.
Definitely heavy on the survival. But the core gameplay mechanic is it's only played with keyboard.
Oh gosh.
It is a top-down view, and
Oh,
it's a little bit complicated at first, but once you get everything kind of memorized and figured out, it's very easy.
right.
And you can always type in /help to get the commands. But what you do is you type in command lines,
Of
or it
course.
feels kind of like command prompt or coding. You type in commands to the drones of like drone one, go to room A1. And then the drone will go to that room if the door is unlocked. It'll choose its shortest path, and then it will wait in that room for a further command. Now you could be like, all right, drone one, connect to the power node of this room and turn the power on. And that might
Okay.
power like 10 different rooms. Well, then you go around, you might find like drones that you can drag back and have to haul back. And each one of your drones can only have so many like equipment slots.
Right.
So one drone might be just for powering rooms and scanning rooms. The other drone might be just for hauling other drones around and hauling scrap. And then one drone might just be for basically any number of uses that you can think of,
Right.
as long as you have the equipment to put in that slot. There's tons of different functions. It's kind of a horror game, but not like spooky, like scare you, jump scare horror.
Right.
It's that sometimes there are entities in the rooms that can destroy your drones. And you don't really, never really states what they are, and you don't really understand what they are. But it scares the hell out of you. And so it's almost a puzzle game because you have to lock certain doors or shut off power to certain doors
Right.
and route your drones around to get the entities, to avoid the entities.
Right.
Now you can also open up like airlocks and suck whatever's inside the room out into space. Now, the detriment to that is sometimes there's really good resources in a
Right.
room with a spooky entity, and so you don't want to jettison it out because then you lose all the resources. So then you have to use a drone to like draw the aggression of the enemy to that room, but lock the door really quick before it gets there, and then lock it out of the other room, and it gets absolutely wild.
Nice.
Absolutely fun game, very puzzle oriented, very um,
very Windows DOS.
Very Windows DOS looking, yeah.
That's what I'm looking at. It looks very DOS
But
like.
it's very cheap. You can run it on just about anything, and it's just an absolutely great game.
Interesting.
The last one I want to talk about in this episode, I'm
Okay.
sure we're gonna do a part 2 to this
Right.
now.
Yeah, of course.
Is a game called Banished,
Oh, yeah, I've played that one.
which is fairly old at this point.
Yeah, it's been out.
It's been out for a long time. I want to say 2013 or 2014, maybe even earlier.
2014, yeah.
And Banished is a city builder,
Give you headaches.
more or less. And you're given X amount of villagers, and you're supposed to build a city. You've been banished from your homeland,
Yeah.
and you are meant to build a city and civilization from scratch.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like your Anno games, your Tropico games, your City Skylines, but it's set in a fantasy world. The rules are very simple. It's not very complicated, but
But it's not very forgiving.
It's not very forgiving. That's for
found
sure.
that out the hard way many times.
It is fairly difficult, but it's also very relaxing at the same
Yep.
time. And just some of the things you can do. It's just one of the quintessential city building games. I
Yeah.
think a great introduction to the genre, and a great, if you've never played a city builder, play Banished.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you follow, I believe there was a fairly simple tutorial. But if you try not to overdo it and you just take your time,
Yep.
you can easily progress this game.
Oh yeah.
It's when you decide you're going to take and you want to get this huge swath of land
Yep.
cleaned out because you have huge plans for it this year.
Yeah.
Okay, understand that, you're probably going to have a disease and
Yeah.
colony.
Something's gonna happen.
Because you're trying to hurry it, and you got to remember there's seasons and
Yeah. And it's
food resources.
It's a game of starting small,
Yeah, and
expanding slowly.
Yeah.
It's a very slow-paced
Oh, yeah.
game. But decisions and what projects you decide to prioritize
very
and tackle
important.
are very important.
Yep. It's a fun game. I liked it.
But it is absolutely 100% worth your time.
It is.
And it's a very cheap game.
Yeah, no, it's a good game. Cheap, yeah. Fun too.
But yeah, as far as hidden gems, I think that's all I want to talk about right now. I have a plethora of more.
Of course,
things
yeah,
played
no,
that I'd
these
love
are
to
some
talk
good
about.
ones. These are the ones that, yeah, you could say right now this is actually a really good time to put this one out because it's only had 148 reviews in the last 30 days, which is not very huge on Steam.
No.
That's actually pretty. You look at any of the games that have been released in the last 6 months, and they're gonna have thousands of reviews.
Yep.
So overall, it's got a good, very positive reviews.
Yeah.
But it's even overall, it's only had 35,000 reviews since 2014.
Well, it's not a very played game because it was an indie developer, and it
Right.
wasn't broadcast very much. There wasn't very many YouTube channels or Twitch channels or
No.
any media covering.
Well, because you can't just power this game. There is
No.
no quick power.
It
You
is
have to take
it's
your
a slow
time.
burn,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a slow burn. You have to take your time. It's a very fun game, though.
Yeah, and it can be played in chunks too. That's the nice thing. It's like it's a simple enough game that you can come back to it, a couple months later and have a general idea of what's going on. So you
Yeah.
don't feel like you need to restart if you take a break.
I think it was one of the first games that my daughter, when she was younger, wanted to play off my Steam account before she got her own Steam account because she
Okay.
really liked the concept of, and she bought it when she got her own Steam account and still plays it today.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, she's like, "Yeah, I know, guys, I gotta quit playing Rainbow Six or whatever you guys are playing, just so she can go play a little Vanish and just relax."
It's just a great game to have in your library to come back to.
Yep.
But yeah, that's all I got for Hidden Gems for episode 1.
Alrighty, that was good. We'll call it Hidden Gems episode 1.
Okay.
There's more to them. There's a lot more out there. Maybe even some might be older games that you haven't heard of, because I know a lot of you guys, a lot of younger guys anyway, haven't heard of some of the older games. You go back to like the Red Alert 2 and stuff like that.
And
But-
I should mention, with these games, I tried to pick ones that you can still buy and play.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me too.
Like not ones that have like servers that have nobody.
Oh
or anything like that.
right, yeah.
Most of these games you could buy and play and experience them as they were
Yep.
intended to be experienced without any hitches.
Yeah, most of you can buy probably on Steam, I would guess.
Yeah, everyone I've
You don't
named is
need
on
it.
Steam.
Yeah,
So.
me too. I mean, I do buy games off Good Old Games and stuff like that, but sometimes they get a little quirky and sometimes they're a little hard to translate over. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode. Till next time.
All right, we'll see you.